positive and negative. One of the things we've learned here in the podcast is that dads make a lot of mistakes, and it seems like when we get older, we're able to forgive them because we realize they didn't mean to make those mistakes. You know, they were doing what they felt like was the right thing to do. Sometimes they didn't know. So, what do you think? Some things your dad did, right or wrong, that have influenced you?
I think, I don't know if it was like, again, military or whatnot, but he was very stern, strict. It was like when he said something, that's what you did. There was no questions about it. And you kind of fall in line, So I think those are things that I look at and go, I didn't want to be like that. But then there are moments in parenting where you get humbled and you realize the man that you said you don't want to be, you realize that's what you are.
Really?
There are things where you're like, I'm not going to be this way. And then you have kids your own, and they have their own thoughts, their own agenda, their own plan, their own sin. Yeah. And you find yourself going like, man, I lost my cool there, or man, I didn't expect to react that way. And I definitely see like that. Like I said, now my dad is, obviously he's a grandfather now, and he's changed. Our relationship has morphed into something different than it was. And I see in him like his heart change, and I see him like wanting to father differently, and how he cares for his grandkids, for my sisters, and I see like that genuine love and care. And I know like if he could go back, like anybody, hindsight's 20/20. You can only do what you can do while you're in it. I think he would change a lot of things and how he was. Like so many times, it didn't matter like if I had 200 teenagers show up, like on a youth, it didn't matter if like 20 of them put their faith and trust in Christ. And I would call him and say, man, Dad, like 20 kids put their faith and trust in Christ. It was kind of like, oh, cool.
So what did you want
like,
him? What did you want?
I wanted praise. You know what I mean? Like I wanted to know from him that I did a good job. And I remember, because there was a time like after our first son was born, it was like our relationship kind of got strained. It kind of came to a head. And I told my wife, I said, if he wants a relationship with me, he can pursue it, but I'm done. So we didn't talk for a long time. It's easy for me to do that because we move so much that like I think detaching is easy. And I remember I was speaking at a camp in Idaho. He lived in right outside of Boise at that time, outside of Twin Falls. I spoke at a camp out there, and I remember it was just me and my parents. We were sitting down at lunch. They were taking me to the airport. I had been in ministry for several years at this point, and I remember he told me something. He said to me, he just started talking about my life, and as he saw me, and he said, son, I want you to know that I'm proud of you. And they dropped me off, and I'm at the airport, and I'm like jacked up, you know what I mean? Because I was like, I shouldn't be struggling with this, you know what I mean? Like I needed to hear that, And I'm like, I'm too old for this. Like
you're a grown man.
I was like, late 20s, and I needed to hear that. So I think for me now, like that's one thing I do with my kids is I tell them, hey, no matter what you do, I don't care how you're gonna screw up. I tell her, cause like you're gonna screw up. We will always love you, and we're proud of you, and we try to praise them. And I think that's something. I don't think he tried to keep it away, but he wasn't good at giving it.